man. Jacoby Greenleaf is in there, and he'll probably bang down low, but he's only listed at 6'4", so advantage in that department clearly going the way of Nebraska Wesleyan.
Welcome everybody to Trinity University. We're dancing in San Antonio for the Tiger Network. I'm Reed Rosales, joined by Luke Terry. Before we get into it, let me introduce the starters for the Centenary College Gents. Craig Collier, Quentin Beverly, Jalen Bear, Seth Thomas, and Jacoby Greenleaf. For Nebraska Wesleyan, Carter Glenn, Landon Tornton, Peter Lash, Jack Gredicke, and Connor Brown. It is Gredicke and Greenleaf for the tip. And Nebraska Wesleyan wins it thanks to the stature of Gredicke. Luke, that stature is sure to come into play as this game starts out.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear to see out there that Nebraska Wesleyan has an advantage in that category. Starting lineup features members that are 6'6", 6'6", and 6'11", with Gredicke, who has the first shot and make of the evening for Nebraska Wesleyan.
He's a big man who can shoot. And now Centenary with their first possession. A quick shot, and that one goes in. That one, number 4, Quentin Beverly for Centenary, and with the dark numbers on the dark jerseys, makes it a little hard to see. But either way, Nebraska Wesleyan on the other side of the court, crossing the timeline, dishing it over to Gredicke. He sinks the 3, and Nebraska Wesleyan off to a hot start.
And kind of the exact opposite of what you might anticipate in this matchup. Great size for Wesleyan. Gredicke out there at 6'11", against a Centenary team that doesn't have a true big. Jacoby Greenleaf listed at 6'4", gonna bang down low. Instead, Gredicke stepping outside twice, and he's knocked down a couple of jump shots.
Tried to go for the alley-oop there, pass just not there. Rattled the rim though. Gredicke has been on D3 dunks a couple of times in this season. He certainly can do it. His stature is enough, but for now, the Centenary College Gents ran through the SCAC tournament to clinch a Pool A bid, and they certainly needed it. Meanwhile, Nebraska Wesleyan coming in with a Pool C bid after losing in the ARC Conference Championship to Loris. Now trying to penetrate the zone are the Gents. Seth Thomas kicks it back out. Now into the paint, working the paint. Now going back out is Bear. Getting it over to Collier. Now back to the outside. Spinning around and getting it to Bear. Bear, reverse layup, doesn't fall. Board taken by Peter Lash, and Nebraska Wesleyan on the move again. Carter Glenn down to Lash. Now at the elbow, passes it back out to Glenn. Nice pass inside. Gredicke can't finish, just barely, and a big stop for Centenary.
Yeah, great length. He was met in the paint originally. It was almost enough for him to get that one up and sneak it over the rim, but ultimately great defense from Centenary and a great response on the other end. Punch for punch right out of the gate here in San Antonio.
Now Nebraska Wesleyan, the Prairie Wolves. Glenn making a quick run, now kicks it back out. Big 3 off the back of the iron, but board taken by Gredicke. Gredicke gonna take the 3. Just a bit short, but another offensive board for Nebraska Wesleyan. Ball is loose. Gredicke has it in his hands again, and a quick spin around shot. Big moment for Nebraska Wesleyan, a lot of offensive boards.
Kind of funny that the only time that they haven't scored on the offensive end is when Gredicke went straight to the basket. He's had a couple of shots over the top, and they've all fallen so far for the big man.
Greenleaf loses the ball for a second, now kicks it back out for Bear. Contested 3, doesn't go, but foul on the floor.
Looked like it was Connor Brown in the area, number 21 for Nebraska Wesleyan. That's gonna get tagged with that one. Nearly 3 minutes gone by. Pretty clean start here in CalGuard Gymnasium on the campus of Trinity University.
Nearly losing the ball, but keeping it alive. Centenary working with the large Gredicke. That pass goes out of bounds. Seth Thomas just can't get past the stature of Gredicke.
Yeah, and it really stood out in the last defensive possession for Nebraska Wesleyan. Anytime that Centenary was able to penetrate, Gredicke was there to step up. And when they were going to the basket, they kind of just turned their heads, tried to go back outside, reset things. He's going to be a huge deterrence in the paint as a rim protector tonight.
Now trying to get it across the timeline. Landon Tornington over to Glenn. Glenn shoots the three. Can't make it in. Board going to Centenary's way. Keeps it alive, but back to Glenn. Officials timeout.
Yeah, very quick to reset the shot clock right there. It was at 30 when the whistle blew. He wanted it at 28 of all things. Collier had both hands on the basketball, headed back the other direction, maybe a little closer to the sideline than we can see from our vantage point here in the gymnasium, but he kind of just threw it back to the middle of the floor, and Prairie Dogs have another possession because of it.
Prairie Wolves put it back out beyond the arc, now working on the inside, trying to be an artist, kicks it out to Gredeke. Gredeke, the Prairie Wolves pass and pass, but it's going to be Centenary ball. Just a little too fancy and too long.
Yeah, it was Connor Brown there getting called with a 3-second violation. Just had his feet set in the paint on the opposite lane line.
Seth Thomas, the clear leader for the Centenary Gents squad, has it up to Beverly. Quick three, it's sunk. Quentin Beverly gives the Gents the lead, 8-7. And we're in the midst of a really good game right now.
Yeah, great start, and I would anticipate nothing less, especially from this Centenary team. I was in Shreveport watching them last weekend as they won the SCAC tournament. Nebraska Wesleyan having an answer in the early going. That time it looked like it was Tornington able to knock it down from the opposite wing. Three-point shooting in San Antonio, working for both squads in the early going.
We get the first media timeout in San Antonio. Nebraska Wesleyan up 10-8. And it's two teams looking to make a statement. Every team in this pod, Centenary, Nebraska Wesleyan, UT Dallas, and Trinity, weren't in the tournament last year, so certainly trying to push deep this year. It's only Centenary's second time in the Division III tournament. They were a D1 school about a decade ago. Last time they made it was that COVID year where the tournament got canceled halfway through. They suffered a heartbreaker loss to UT Dallas, in fact. And for Nebraska Wesleyan, a couple years ago, they graduated the winningest class in program history, the class that went and won it all. So big expectations. But for the Prairie Wolves, it is business as usual. And both sides just playing really tough right now.
And I think you anticipate this on both sides. You look at the length, the size of Nebraska Wesleyan, and it's going to point to that's how they're going to play all evening long. On the other side, Centenary earning that Pool A bid by winning the conference championship. They're certainly playing their best basketball of the year at the most important time of the season. We've seen their 1-3-1 zone that they came out in. Typically a squad and a program that runs man defensively, but it's worked down the stretch, and they're trying to make it work here against Nebraska Wesleyan.
Singleton trying to dish in the paint, bounces it off the foot of number 24, Peter Lash. It's going to end up Prairie Wolf ball. But Centenary playing an aggressive defense right now, not letting the inbounds be an easy one. But Gredeke takes it easily anyways. And now Prairie Wolves trying to cook with gas. They look at the Centenary zone. Now dish it in. Now back out. Glenn didn't take the three. Instead, from the top of the key, swish! Carter Glenn does it again.
And a good job from Glenn right there. Centenary wisely running them off the three-point line, but reestablishes from about 18 feet, rises up and knocks it down over the top.
Thomas's shot is short, but offensive board for Centenary. Singleton cannot finish. And now Nebraska Wesleyan a chance to pad their lead. And now passing it up. Now back down to Glenn. Back to Lash. Lash giving it to Glenn again. Glenn had a great game against Loris. But Lash will take the deep three. Money for Peter Lash. Way deep three is good. Nebraska Wesleyan has almost doubled up the Gents.
And Centenary last weekend really wanted teams to play far outside the three-point arc. And that's exactly what they got. And they got teams playing 4, 5, 6 feet beyond that line. And in addition to that, they weren't very willing to shoot the basketball, but early on, the Prairie Wolves showing that they are, and Lash knocking down a very deep three.
Now Nebraska Wesleyan, once again, aggressive defense for Centenary on the inbounds. They're going to try and force as many takeaways as possible. But coming in for the Gents, Braden Board. He takes up the spot up in front for Craig Collier. But the inbound easy anyways. Seth Newton gets the inbounds, and now he has the ball yet again from the pass from Lash. Gets it to Glenn. Glenn working back. Board trying to confront him. Over to Gredeke. Now back down to Lash. Lash trying to get it to the corner. A little bit of a bobble. Forces a bad pass. Intercepted by Beverly. And now the Gents trying to use this momentum in any way they can. Pass it down to Beverly. Beverly at the top of the arc. Now passes it to his left. Now back to the right to Board. The ball gets tipped from the pass from Board. And now Prairie Wolves on the run. Carter Glenn can't finish it off. It was a great move, but it will stay Prairie Wolf ball.
Absolutely right. Nice step through in transition right there. Defense trying to run through and disrupt it. And they did just enough to induce that one falling off the iron.
Gredeke now in for Newton. Back out for Glenn. That one doesn't go in. It's going to be Prairie Wolf ball yet again, though. A lot of second opportunities for the Prairie Wolves so far. Meanwhile, in for the Prairie Wolves is Elijah Thatch, number 22. Their main go-to off the bench, usually. Carter Glenn working his way in. Now kicked out. Thatch stepped out. So Gents get a bit of a break and get the ball back.
Yeah, certainly a learning curve. That's part of any NCAA tournament site, is just getting used to the dimensions of the court. You can see the stands on the far side of your screen. Typically different for every team. Coming on the road, trying to adjust. He's just a little too deep on the catch there, but Seth Thomas rising up from about 17 feet, draws Centenary back just a little bit closer.
Wesleyan's been doing good with the inbounds. Euro step from the big man. It scores. Gredeke does it again. Now Centenary working quick, not letting this pace slow down at all. Pass back down to Board. 3 from the top, in and out. Unfortunate miss, but Nebraska Wesleyan has a chance to work against the defense of the Gents yet again. They are not letting up.
Yeah, great pace in the early going for Nebraska Wesleyan. Something that I honestly didn't anticipate as Lash pulls that one, and this is wide to the right.
Kept alive. Lash. It's going to be Centenary ball. They're going to call Lash with the charge there.
Yeah, Lash with a significant size advantage as he was going inside. Looks like it was Mirage stepping up just outside the restricted zone. He got his feet set and was able to take that one.
Also in for the game for Centenary, A.J. Hall had a great game against Trinity when the Gents came here. Quick pull-up shot, does not fall for Greenleaf. And now Nebraska Wesleyan crossing the timeline yet again. Glenn makes a defender miss, but loses the ball. Glenn, usually the one taking away the ball, loses it this time. Jay Hall pulls up for a 3. That one doesn't go. So very quick to pull up for 3s are the Gents right now. But Wesleyan having the scoreboard advantage, but the ball gets taken away from Glenn, but can't finish. It was a perfect opportunity, and now Nebraska Wesleyan kicks it to Lash. Lash trying to go in, but no one can score. Gredeke, though, his stature just a bit too much for the Gents. The takeaway from Beverly did not go, and man, that was such a good chance for Centenary.
Yeah, kind of an awkward play right there. Beverly taking it away very nicely. Picked up his dribble, and I think there were some groans in the crowd. I think there was a little bit of a call for a travel as he went to the basket. But you're right, he ultimately missed it, missed out on an opportunity, and a big 4-point swing here in San Antonio as Wesleyan coming back the other way, able to capitalize, and well, it should have maybe been 17-12. Instead, it's 19-10.
Nebraska Wesleyan on a 12-2 run over the last nearly 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 40 seconds. And the Gents a bit cold from the field, 1 for their last 8 shots. They want to get past this solid Prairie Wolf squad. That's going to have to change. We watched that ARC championship game against Loris, and what we learned from Wesleyan is this: they are really a good, solid, all-around team. Excelling in steals, mostly thanks to Carter Glenn, but everyone on their team is a bit of a pest and a nuisance when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. When you're their opponent, it's certainly a headache.
Yeah, but returning to that point, just a couple of minutes ago, we were touching on it, Reed. They're getting out and they're moving really quickly. Maybe not so much the speed with which they're playing with in transition, but how fast the ball is moving around the offensive end, making a lot of passes to attack this Centenary zone. And in the early going, it's working quite well for them.
Now trying to see their luck be a bit better. Greenleaf handed up to Beverly. And now trying to work their way down for the Gents. Number 11, Mirage. But shot from near the elbow does not go for Seth Thomas. So another chance for Wesleyan. NWU. Let Peter Lash inbound the ball. Easy find for Thatch. Carter Glenn back down to Lash. Lash, their leading scorer. Carter Glenn back down to Lash, playing catch with each other. Dishes it in to Gredeke, but Gredeke's pass intercepted by Greenleaf. And now Mirage working in the paint. Bit of a teardrop shot, doesn't fall. Now Carter Glenn working against the Gents defense, and Mirage just staying aggressive. Kicked back out for Glenn, thought about a 3, made Thomas miss. Gone out to Gredeke, and Gredeke is going to get tagged with a travel, so turnover by Nebraska Wesleyan. But still, Gents can't find anything from the field.
Yeah, but Glenn, a couple of times in the last several possessions, we've seen him catch on the perimeter, throw a little bit of a subtle ball fake. These Centenary defenders are flying at him. I think that once that first look has moved on, he's trying to find his teammates wide open, but moving forward in this half, if this continues, he's going to have the opportunity to get those defenders to fly by and just reset on the perimeter. Should be wide open if he chooses to do so.
Craig Collier re-enters the game for Quentin Beverly. Jacoby Greenleaf works it in, pull-up shot from the post. Doesn't fall. Another brick for the Gents. And it is still 19-10. Carter Glenn giving up to Lash, back down to Glenn, the two main arbiters for offense. Glenn kicks out to Lash again. Nice pass to the inside, but immediately swarmed by Gents as Newton spin shot, but called for the travel. And the Gents defense really being bothersome when they do try to push into the arc.
Yeah, throwing spin moves time and time again like that. Eventually, you're probably bound to drag that pivot foot. Exactly what happens right there, but just no options inside the three-point line. On the other side, there have been. Gents have taken a lot of mid-range jump shots on offense in this scoring drought that they're currently a part of.
Mirage trying to get into Thomas. He does. Thomas thought about a spin-around shot, but 4 seconds left on the shot clock. He takes it. Does not go, just a bit short. And the offensive woes for the Gents continue. 4-minute drought now. Glenn working up against Mirage. Back up to Lash. Now Gredeke in the corner. Big pass over to Glenn. Cross-court pass. Lash thought about taking the 3, doesn't. Instead kicks it in, but back out for Glenn. Glenn works his way in. Thatch, contested shot, rejected by Greenleaf. Another good defensive stop, but they really need to find some offense right now. Thomas thought about a shot, said has to defer it back up to Collier. Now Board backs out from the arc. 13 seconds left on the shot clock. Collier resetting things. Single-digit seconds. Greenleaf realizes, works in, but can't finish again. There's a lid on the Centenary Gents' rim because nothing is falling right now.
Right now, Gredeke very content to sag off. Let them take those 15-footers as he's going to get pulled down right there. It was Greenleaf who came over as that pass was slipped down to the block very, very nicely. But on the other end of the court, Gredeke isn't forced to be kept honest, right? They've taken 5+ mid-range jump shots in the last 6 or 7 minutes of this game. And I think outside of one Seth Thomas miss, they're shooting a pretty bleak percentage. Until they prove that they're going to make those, Gredeke is going to stand right inside that restricted area, be content to block any shots or heavily contest them bare minimum, as he did against Greenleaf on that last possession, until they prove they can make them consistently.
Now, right now for both sides, Wesleyan had a 12-2 run. That was a long time ago. Right now, Prairie Wolves haven't scored in 3.5 minutes. The Gents haven't scored in the last 5. Gents won for their last 12, and the Prairie Wolves have turned the ball over 6 times in 5 minutes. We started off pretty quick, but now things have really slowed down. The question is who's going to be the first opening salvo to get the scoring coming back again?
Yeah, I think as this one continues, very likely in the second half, we're going to point to this early 9-point lead for Nebraska Wesleyan. Centenary is going to have to work very hard, as they're currently doing. I think you think about effort being exerted, and Gredeke just said gets to stand back in the paint and deter the Gents from scoring at the basket. On the other side, Centenary is playing very well defensively, but they're exerting a lot of energy and effort trying to recover and scramble because of the Prairie Wolves passing.
Flash deep 3, drain it. He's the leading scorer for a reason. Way deep 3 from center. And Nebraska Wesleyan, maybe that's the opening salvo they need. Gents not content to stay behind, however. Trying to get it in to Jacoby Greenleaf. Trying to find somebody in the paint. Everyone's got to move out, though. Seth Thomas, corner 3. A little too strong, but offensive board for Centenary. Bear going back down to Collier. And Collier does finish, so both scoring droughts quenched. It is 22-12, however. Nebraska Wesleyan with a 10-point lead.
Collier, a very capable mid-range shooter for the Gents. One of the few on this roster that takes a lot of those shots and makes a lot of them, as he'll pull another one, but Lash leaves it a little short this time out. That last possession for Centenary, important to note, Gredeke's off the court, and still they're finding a way, the Prairie Wolves are, to keep Centenary outside of the paint.
Now working his way in is Lash yet again, but ball comes loose. Jacoby Greenleaf has his hands on it again. Seth Thomas, team captain, trying to work a comeback. Corner 3 does not go for Collier. And now Prairie Wolves back on the run, crossing the timeline. And the ball is taken away by Thomas. Good read there. And they try to get it to Thomas, and nothing going. Another opportunity just vanquished right there in front of the Gents' eyes. Lash passing it in, trying to crash the board. And it will be Gents' ball.
Looks like it was goaltending right there. Seth Thomas trying to meet him at the rim. That one pretty clearly taking a deflection off the backboard before he could get a piece of it.
So Nebraska Wesleyan doubling up the Gents right now. Back down to Thomas. Trying to get it in, but Peter Lash, almost seemed like that pass was intended for Peter Lash. And Lash back up to Glenn. Glenn down to Lash again, now in the corner. But back up to Glenn. Lash at the top of the arc, now working his way in. Corner 3 attempt is a bit too strong. Board by Thomas. Landon Tornington just couldn't get it to go.
Yeah. Thomas just outworking on the defensive glass right there. Made a mistake on the other end of the court. It was a nice job of just limiting him to one possession that time out.
High arcing three for Quentin Beverly. Makes it 24-15, a shot sorely needed for the Gents. And now having to contain a Wesleyan offense. That one doesn't go for number 5, Andrew Brewer, who faced into the game for the Prairie Wolves. Now working to the right, Quentin Beverly kicks it over to Seth Thomas. Now back to Seth Thomas, immediate three, just weak. But now with the offensive board, Beverly punches it out. And maybe punch it through the legs of his teammate there. Ball had some velocity off of it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Great effort from Beverly right there. Unfortunately, the bounce doesn't go their way as he's able to scramble to it, and we'll see right through the wickets of Gerald Mirage, who was trying to corral it himself. You called the name, Andrew Brewer into the game for the Prairie Wolves, despite the fact that he's playing the middle of that 3 in the 2-3 zone. Gents haven't gone at him. Really just one time in the last several possessions since Gredeke checked out.
And another errant pass leads to another takeaway. Gents down by 9, looking for some points right now. Seth Thomas goes up to Beverly. Thought about taking a 3, Seth works it in, then back out. But foul's going to be called. See who they tag it to.
Looks like it was Torniton that was closest as Beverly was trying to navigate to the basket. So far, I feel like the refs have really been letting him play, especially when Centenary has gone to the bucket. There's been some contact, but the Prairie Wolves simply bigger on the court at the moment.
Another opportunity for the Gents thanks to the offensive board. Working it down to the left. Now in for Greenleaf, kicked back out. The 3 does go. Centenary trying to come back. Gerald Mirage getting the 3 there. Now Gredeke spins and kicks it back out for Glenn. Glenn from Lincoln, Nebraska, hometown kid on a team where there's kids from all around the country. Now kicked up. Now back down to Glenn. Glenn contested 3, does not go. Thomas with the board. First team All-SEAC was Seth Thomas. And he wants to prove why in this big game. Thomas backing it back out. Now over to the left to Mirage. Close shot there from Beverly, doesn't go. Lash with the board. Prairie Wolves back across the timeline.
Close shot, but very much felt like it was affected by the presence of Gredeke. And trying to put it up over the top and drop it through, but the high arcer misses long for that reason.
So now the Gents trying to turn the tables. 6-0 run over the last 2 minutes. Nebraska Wesleyan has another scoring drought on their hands of about 3 minutes. And scoring droughts is certainly not what the Prairie Wolves need. Certainly a factor that cost them in that American Rivers Conference Championship. You see on your screen right now, head coach for the Gents, Chris Dorsey, talking with this squad. Head coach for Nebraska Wesleyan is Dale Wellman. Both coaches trying to get into the round of 32. It's been a while for Centenary. They've had less chances than Nebraska Wesleyan has. Nebraska Wesleyan, the only team in this field that has a trophy and the hardware back in the trophy case over in Lincoln, Nebraska. Wellman led Nebraska Wesleyan in 2018 to a D3 national title, 78-72 over Wisconsin Oshkosh. Trying to do it again. When I talked to Coach Wellman, he's talked about graduating the winningest class a couple years ago, and he says it's still the same philosophy, still the same practice techniques. This team has just gone about it in a slightly different way, a more defensive-minded way than the last team was. Now trying to get it in. Contested on the inbound. It's going to be Prairie Wolf ball, but trying to get it to Glenn. So Prairie Wolves will back up a little bit. Lash looking for somebody, is able to find number 11, Amon-Ra Collins. Now into the corner, back out to Lash. Now into Gredicke. Gredicke, quick little shot, doesn't go. Board contested, and a foul's gonna be called, much to the chagrin of Torniton. I don't think he's too happy about that one.
Yeah, and he wasn't particularly happy about the last call that he picked up. That's at least 2 on Torniton. Something that we will have to monitor closely.
Now, with the Gents, they're on the 6-0 run right now, looking to extend it. Back down to Thomas. Kicks it in to Board. Board back out to Mirage. Mirage working in the paint. Now all the way back out to Thomas. Quentin Beverly with the 3. Can't get it. And that one's gonna be knocked out. Gents ball.
Yeah, long 3. As Lash was trying to come out to corral the rebound. He's being pestered by these Centenary guards, putting pressure on them as they're trying to rebound. We've got Singleton on the catch right now, and he had a spectacular conclusion to the SCAC championship. He had 33 in that championship game to take home that tournament MVP honor.
Now trying to get the alley-oop to Gredicke again. Once again, can't quite connect just yet. But Thomas going in, and the foul's gonna be called as Thomas hits the ground.
And Gredicke looking to the refs and motioning a little bit with his hands. I think he's calling for a flop right there, but I don't know. Seth Thomas shoots that one, comes pretty much fully back to the floor before there's contact. Even then, Gredicke, he's standing in there at 6'11". You're not going to stand upright when you make contact and go through him. He's pretty clearly coming through the body there.
Thomas's first shot is good. Gents cut the lead just a little bit more. It's 24-19 now.
You think about this one in the early going, Reed. I think both of these squads have to be pretty happy about where they're at. Centenary cutting the deficit to 5 on that possession as Thomas's second free throw is a little short. But on the other side, defensively, Peter Lash has made a couple of deep threes as a guy that shoots 30% on the season.
Now the takeaway, it's put up, and the foul's gonna be called. So now Nebraska Wesleyan starting to tack on a couple fouls on their way into the second half.
And if you're Nebraska Wesleyan, getting around to it here, I think you have to be content that you're leading this game at all. They have not done a good job at all of taking care of the basketball. Already 15 turnovers here in the first half.
First free throw is good for Mirage as he looks to make the lead for Nebraska Wesleyan, his last name. Second try is good, and now it's a one-possession game, 24-21. Gredicke cross-court pass to Glenn. Carter Glenn going up for Lash. Deep 3, rattles in and out. That was close, though. Lash, he's really got infinite range, but working quick. Seth Thomas shows off the speed, but can't finish. And now Lash and the Prairie Wolves running down the court yet again. Glenn crosses the timeline. Getting swarmed by Gents, though. Not very gentlemanlike, as Lash working his way in and scores with the little Euro step action.
Yeah, he had defenders that closed in front of him, but did a very nice job of just slowing himself down with that Euro step, finding his balance, and then nicely using the glass to put that one in.
And now Centenary trying to bring it back to a one-possession game yet again. Mirage going up to Thomas. Now into the paint, thinking about pulling up, trying to do a little underhand shot. Foul will be called as Takeem Singleton gets the ball swatted away.
I think they're going to say Gredicke got that one cleanly, trying to go underneath the outstretched arms, but he has a very, very long wingspan and recovered nicely on that.
Immediate 3 is great from Quentin Beverly. Gent's starting to heat up along with the Prairie Wolves. It's a 2-point game. Shot clock is off, so Nebraska Wesleyan will have the option to take the last shot if they so wish. Who will they have take it? Lash and Glenn passing it in between each other. Single digits. Lash takes the deep three. Doesn't get it to go. Offensive board. Ball is lost. 3 seconds left. He's all alone in front. And what a more fitting way to end the first half than a couple of turnovers on the way out. Nebraska Wesleyan leads it by 2, 26-24. And Luke, we have been witnessing maybe a game where both sides want to protect the ball a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that the decision-making in this one so far has left something to be desired. For Nebraska Wesleyan, you're right. It's taking care of the basketball. Way too many turnovers to open up your NCAA tournament here in 2024. 16 through just 20 minutes of play. And on the other side, for Centenary, maybe shot selection, the biggest thing. Not valuing your possessions as much as you would like. But towards the end of that half, I think you have to like those looks that you generated a little bit more, especially the ones from beyond the arc.
It has been an interesting first half in San Antonio, Texas. We will take a break on the Tiger Network. You see the time on your screen. And we'll be back for some more great March Madness basketball. Boy, does that feel good to say. Welcome back to the Tiger Network. I am Reed Rosales, joined by my colleague Luke Terry. And just before we come into halftime, I want to talk about some scores around the nation in our little quadrant of the bracket. We don't have regional seeding or anything, so we just kind of call it the Hampton-Sydney quadrant because they kind of look like the 1 seed. Farmingdale State defeated Stevens 80-66. Big win over there. Rowan beating Carnegie Mellon 81-69. Catholic leads Worcester State 45-38. St. Thomas and Claremont Mudscripts has kicked off. St. Thomas leading 23-21 with about 7 minutes left to go in the first half. Other games going on this quadrant: Hampton-Sydney versus La Roche at 6 o'clock. Cal Lutheran playing Whitworth at 8 o'clock. And Trinity, the host school, playing UT Dallas at 7:35. I think I missaid that. Hampton-Sydney's hosting La Roche. They're not at La Roche. That'd be a bit of a crazy working development if that was the case. But Hampton-Sydney clearly the team to beat in this quadrant of the bracket. But as for the game at hand, it is 26-24. The Prairie Wolves leading. And Luke, I think we are going to see a little bit more scoring in this half than we did the first, or at least both teams are hoping to do some more scoring.
Yeah, I think at least one of these squads will fit that, Reed. For Nebraska Wesleyan, a ton of turnovers. On the other side, Centenary didn't generate a lot of great looks. This one, very early on, does roll in, kind bounce for Greenleaf. They had some opportunities at the rim at various points, a couple of transition opportunities off of takeaways, but they missed some easy bunnies. That one gets them going and gets them even here to start the second half.
Lash down to Glenn. Glenn trying to find someone on the inside. Instead works it outside the arc. Tornin driving it in, out to Lash. Lash stuffed by Greenleaf. The big man for the Gents has worked his tail off today. And now he backs it out of the arc. Over to Beverly. Thought about the three. Instead, back down into Seth Thomas. The three does not fall for Jalen Bear. Beverly tried to make an attempt at an offensive board, but instead, Peter Lash comes down with it. Glenn working against Collier, who is absolutely ruthless on his defense right now. Lash getting it in. Nebraska Wesleyan using their stature. Lash with the three. Another three for Peter Lash. And he has been blistering the nets from beyond the arc.
Yeah, great start here in the second half as Lash will draw even with Gredeke and team high and game high 11 points.
Now Beverly up to Bear. Bear trying to do a pass into Thomas. Fortunate bounce, gets it to Collier. Greenleaf jump shot, can't kiss it off the glass. Now Prairie Wolves back across the timeline thanks to Carter Glenn. Up to Lash. Now within the arc, working through the paint, kicks it out to Lash. Thought about the three. Instead, Lash will try and paint himself a masterpiece again. Now Connor Brown can't get it. And foul's going to be called. A lot of movement in the arc this time around for Nebraska Wesleyan.
Yeah, I would love to see a replay of that one. It's going to be called a blocking foul on Greenleaf on the inside, but you see Lash gets the ball back. He catches. He really loads up and goes through the chest of Greenleaf right here. He was a little bit late stepping back outside the restricted area. So really a 50-50 call. This one going the way of the Prairie Wolves.
Lash will be the one to take the free throws. And the first shot is good. Two-possession game now for the Prairie Wolves as they go up 30-26. And the second shot is good. 31-26. Centenary looking to keep up with their pace. Greenleaf lets the Prairie Wolves go by him. And now Beverly from the elbow. Can't get it off the inside of the back of the iron. I think the Prairie Wolves trying to get a call there. No call being had, however. Lash going to the top of the arc to Brown, now back down to Glenn. Up to Torrington, now inside to Brown. And he loses the ball. Back on the outside, Peter Lash spinning around. Now to Glenn, 3 up, 3 good. A triple for number 3, Carter Glenn.
Looks like a delay of game call, maybe a foul that's ultimately called there. As the referee reported a number, it was on Connor Brown, and it is going to be reported as a foul. Push in the back as that one was on its way, but no harm done as the basket is good. And Nebraska Wesleyan, the Prairie Wolves, off to a wonderful start here in the second half.
26-34 the score. And now Gerald Mirage going up to Board. Board back to Mirage. Now to Beverly. Beverly back down to Mirage. Unable to pierce the arc. Now does so. Gets it to Thomas and denied. Stature Gredicke comes into play yet again. But they reset the shot clock with the attempt. And now Board in and out of the arc. Trying to get the pass to Greenleaf. And instead it's going to be a takeaway, but a contested one. Gents ball as Torrington had a takeaway, but Greenleaf did not give up on the ball.
Yeah, great job getting back. Torrington arguing to the referee that that one didn't go off of his leg. One way or another, it's going to stay in the hands of the Gents right here, who need to capitalize and find a way to get on the board here in the second half.
3-minute scoring drought for Centenary. And that one certainly off the foot, kind of punted all the way to the other side of the court. If you're an NFL kicker, you got some film right there.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a bit. That one had good distance on it, however.
A new record being kept in the record books of CalGuard Gym now. Now down to Board. Board working to his left. Dribble, now pass. Thomas looking, finding Greenleaf at the elbow. Takes a shot in the paint. Can't get it. Kind of airmailed it there. And now Glenn in out of the arc. Back down to Lash. Carter Glenn works inside, steps inside the arc. Points all the same for Carter Glenn. 10-point lead for the Prairie Wolves.
Again, exactly what we talked about in that first half. Defense is closing on him so hard at the perimeter as Thomas throws that one up wildly. And Gredicke is just a huge presence on the inside, and it's being felt every time the Gents come down the floor on offense.
Back in the inside, trying to get the dunk. Foul's going to be called. Gredicke, he really wants a dunk. And it feels like eventually he may get one, but for now he'll be shooting some free throws.
And out the gates here in the second half, the Prairie Wolves are doing a much better job on this end of the court. Everything has been very, very clean in about the first 4.5 minutes here gone by.
10-point run for Nebraska Wesleyan. And a 4.5-minute scoring drought for the Gents. It's not what they need coming into the second half. They are getting points off of turnovers. They have 11 compared to 2 for the Prairie Wolves. But also, they've had some opportunities that have been pretty good. Some little bunnies at the rim, some good takeaways where they're all alone in front. Have just gone a bit to waste. You can see Coach Dorsey on your screen talking to the Gents. Prairie Wolves are back out onto the court. Gredicke has some charity stripe points to potentially collect. Meanwhile, the Gents staying in their huddle for a bit longer, because clearly they're on the back foot right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You look at some of the stats here this evening. Nebraska Wesleyan winning that rebounding battle, 31-17, a pretty steady edge in that category. But Centenary has done a halfway decent job, specifically on the offensive glass. They're being out-rebounded there by a margin just 10-9. So on the defensive end, not doing a great job are the Gents, but they're at least creating some second chance opportunities off their misses.
Gredeke sinks the first shot. Now an 11-point lead for the Prairie Wolves. And the second shot is good as well. 12-point lead for Nebraska Wesleyan. The Gents looking for anything on offense right now. Mirage up to Thomas, now gets it in for Board. Hey. Now working inside. Now back out to Thomas. Takes the three, in and out. And Board trying to get it, but is unable to. Corner three, doesn't go. Gredeke with the board. And once again, the Gents can't get anything going.
Yeah, some good looks that they're generating, but you're right, just haven't been able to put them in here to start the second half.
Trying to get the shot up, but no good. The ball's still on the floor. Now finally picked up by Thomas. I think it was Connor Brown or Torniton that tried to go up for the layup. Didn't have it go, and the ball just stayed on the floor. Thomas coming away with it all the same. Now trying to pierce the inside. Now in and out. Forward with the ball in his hands. Now into Thomas. Shot from the elbow is good. 5-minute scoring drought over, but it has shown its effects.
That one, a much more decisive take from Thomas in the mid-range. It feels like more often than not, as Lash puts one up in transition, when Centenary and Seth Thomas have had those attempts from 15 feet, it's kind of just a long decision in the making.
Carter Glenn, yet again. Had a great game against Loris. Looking to have a great game against Centenary. 41-28, the Prairie Wolves really starting to pull away now.
Thomas gets fouled that time before he could put an attempt up, but it felt like on that last possession, his last make from mid-range, he caught, he turned, he put it up. More often than not, it's been the Gents catching, surveying, realizing that there's nothing else available, and then making the decision to shoot it over the top of the defense. His last shot and last possession down, much more confident.
Nebraska Wesleyan doing a great job in the second half. The Gents really needing to keep pace. A.J. Hall down to Mirage. Mirage gets it in to Greenleaf. Shot from the free throw line. Can't get it at the shot clock. So once again, Wesleyan going with Glenn, having the ball in his hands. Big pass all the way to Gredeke, but quickly has to go to Thatch. Glenn, pretty open three. That doesn't go. Gredeke trying to get the board. Doesn't get it, but it is Wesleyan ball anyways.
Good job on the defensive boards right there. I mentioned it early going. Centenary giving up a ton of size on the inside, but putting enough bodies on Gredeke right there that he couldn't elevate, ultimately couldn't corral it cleanly, and the ball goes off of the Prairie Wolves.
Beverly up to Mirage, goes up to Hall. Now back down to Beverly. Kicks it in for Singleton. Spinning around, now back out to Hall. A.J. Hall on the far side lane. Back out to Beverly. Sinks the shot from the top of the key. Triple for Centenary. Makes it a 10-point game. Lash back down to Glenn. Glenn working against Mirage. Goes back up to Thatch. Now to Glenn again. In to Lash. Lash loses the ball. Has it taken away by Mirage. Mirage working quick. Beverly, quick three. In and out. That ball just not wanting to go in.
Yeah, but decisive that time down the court. Really the last two times down the court. And got something that broke down this zone just a little bit. Had a nice kick out and it generated an open shot. That's what the Wesleyan Prairie Wolves have done all day. They do so again right there. Just can't get it to go.
Mirage calling over A.J. Hall, who he hands the ball to. All back down to Mirage, deferring it back to him. Gets it to Beverly. Greenleaf calling for the ball, finally gets it from AJ Hall. Working against Gredeke. And maybe not, that's the reason why they're not attacking, because that defensive presence from Wesleyan just really domineering right now.
Just a little bit of a delay. Greenleaf goes into his chest, creates the separation, but as he's processing, deciding to go up towards the basket, it allows Gredeke to recover, and he comes over for another nice block.
Another, maybe a timeout for the second half. Nebraska Wesleyan up 41-31. Carter Glenn with 10 points, 2 for 6 from downtown. Peter Lash and Gredeke, 13 points apiece. Lash 3 for 9 from beyond the arc. It's been some big minutes played for both Glenn and Lash. 29 minutes, nearly half the game so far. It's really been a show by the starters of Nebraska Wesleyan on both fronts of the ball. They've done a much better job in this half of protecting the ball as well.
Yeah, I believe they had 16 turnovers going into that halftime break. Come out, they've played 9 minutes already and just 2 turnovers showing in the box score for this second period. So very clean. As you might imagine, it's helped them grow this lead. Out ahead by double digits right now, and Centenary struggled from the field in the first half. It's been worse here in the second, down to just 24% on the evening. If there's any bright spot in their statistics at the moment, it's probably what they've done from 3. Still not great, but 30% above the rest of what you're shooting from the field. Certainly something that you're going to live with.
It'll be Nebraska Wesleyan to inbounds it. Gets it in to Carter Glenn. Glenn within the arc, put up the shot. Can't get it. Gredeke trying to get the offensive board, but just out of his hands. Maybe a bit fortunate for the Gents. Singleton thought about a 3. Now he takes a 3. Can't cash it in. Gredeke wipes the board clean. And now Wesleyan slowing down a little bit on offense. Really taking their time with their shots. Back down to Glenn. Up to Lash. Now getting it in to Thatch. Back outside. 3 is up. 3 no good, however. It'll be a Gents ball. 3-point attempt from Landon Torniton, not falling.
Yeah, break down the defense again right there. Do the Prairie Wolves. Get the ball on the inside. They turn. Thatch makes the right read. Gets it to the corner. And Torniton just unable to put it through the cylinder.
Back down to Beverly. Going up to Mirage. Mirage back outside the arc. Singleton hands it over to Beverly. Beverly working it in. And Singleton gets denied from behind. And pass given to Glenn. Glenn working fast, trying to pierce the defense. Gets it to Torniton. Torniton loses the ball. It's going to stay Prairie Wolf ball.
And Nebraska Wesleyan going very quick right there, as you point out, Reed. Mirage, it looked like, for the Gents, was trying to come out of nowhere, take the ball away right underneath Nebraska Wesleyan's basket. He put himself out of the play. He was behind it, and the Prairie Wolves tried to capitalize. Nice job defensively by the other 4 Gents on the court, swarming to the basketball and knocking away to recover to a full 5-on-5.
Torniton going up to Lash. And Centenary wanting a travel call there. None given. Torniton working in the paint. Shot up. Doesn't go in, but tipped back up and in. Not sure who got their hand on it, but either way, it's points for the Prairie Wolves.
Yeah, Torniton in the vicinity again, but Brewer also right there as he checks back in. Gredeke comes off, likely for his last break.
3 doesn't go for AJ Hall. Carter Glenn show himself to be the composer of the masterpiece that Nebraska Wesleyan is working right now. Glenn works his way back out. Now being chased down by the gentleman. Back up, 3 is up and good for Peter Lash. Lash yet again, 46-31. We're gonna have a stoppage in play as both sides want to talk things over. Nebraska Wesleyan up 46-31, 15-point gap.
Yeah, and almost all of that gap has been provided by Lash's three-point shooting. 4 of 10 on this outing. Mentioned his percentage on the season coming into this one, just about a 30% guy from beyond the arc, but he's been huge for Nebraska Wesleyan this afternoon in multiple senses, both literally and figuratively. 6'6", provides great size out there, but when you can add some shooting to it, it makes him that much more dynamic.
And one thing I want to point out is the rebound game. Right now, Wesleyan is dominating it. 42 rebounds compared to 22 for Centenary. And Peter Lash alone, 16 points, but also 16 rebounds as well. Has himself a double-double today. And he's just been playing so well for Nebraska Wesleyan. It has been hard to stop him. And the Gents just haven't had an answer as of late.
Yeah, he's been all over the court, crashing the glass very, very hard. 16 rebounds, 15 of them of the defensive variety. So he's a big reason that Centenary has been one and done on a lot of their trips tonight.
Now Collier handling the ball for the Gents, nearly taken away immediately by Torrington on the pass attempt to A.J. Hall. But instead, it'll be the Gents ball. Thomas working in, gets tied up. No jump ball called. Shot up, no good. Board wiped clean by Torrington. And Wesleyan slowing it down a little bit again. Passing it up to the corner. Now back to Lash. Down it to Glenn again. And they go in a triangle. Working, putting the shot up. Can't get it. And the ball is still out. Offensive board for Wesleyan. And the ball's still on the floor again. Someone has put Vaseline on the ball because nobody can handle it. And it's gonna end up being a jump ball. There were a couple of looks at it. Andrew Brewer had one. But after that, just nobody can handle it, it seems.
Yeah, we've seen some sequences like that where no one grabs control of the basketball, but I don't think we've had one last quite that long here in the 23-24 season.
We want to talk about a run, a 20-5 run for Nebraska Wesleyan, and nearly a 5-minute scoring drought for the Gents of Centenary. And really, it's been the story of this game as Wesleyan in the second half, they've come out, they've scored, and Centenary, they just haven't done the same.
And you mentioned 20-5 run. That's over about 11 minutes. It's almost representative of this entire second half. It's been pretty much all Nebraska Wesleyan here in the second half of this game.
You see on your screen the Nebraska Wesleyan huddle. Dale Wellman talking to his squad. They have big aspirations. Told me that they were disappointed when they couldn't win that ARC title game. But he said that disappointment has to go away when they enter the gym the next day, and it did. They've come here to play, they've come here to dance. And right now, if the trend continues, they're gonna be dancing on into the next round.
Yeah, very, very good team. And we talked earlier in the broadcast about, I guess I'm mixing my broadcasts up, Reed. I was on baseball before this. And they are talked about getting over the hump. Nebraska Wesleyan dropped 4 games this year. I believe they only dropped to 2 opponents, though. Dropped 3 games to Loras, who mentioned they dropped that ARC championship game. Couldn't get past Loras very effectively this year, but to only drop or fall to 2 opponents, very impressive feat.
That Thomas, big touchdown pass caught by Singleton, and it'll go in. Touchdown for Takeem Singleton. Good pass from Thomas to find his man. But now Peter Lash and Carter Glenn working around the Gents defense yet again. It's 46-33, Nebraska Wesleyan leading. Getting it in for Thatch at the top of the key. Out of Brewer. Brewer can't finish. Collier does a little spin, gets it to Thomas. Now A.J. Hall thought about a three, works it in, pulls up, no good, but taken by Collier for the offensive board. Hall with the ball in his hands yet again. Gives it over to Singleton, now to Hall. Hall takes a contested three, and that's airmailed. Not sure that's the shot selection that they wanted when you're down by 13. But either way, Nebraska Wesleyan is not complaining as they get another chance to just burn more of this clock away.
Yeah, 13-point game. 6:43 is still a lot of time, but in the context of this one, where the Gents have only mustered 33 points, it's going to be a pretty tough hill to climb.
Glenn waiting for the screen from Gredicke. Pulls up. Now the ball pierces the arc. Now back out for Thatch. Thatch steps in the arc. Maybe had it tipped a little bit. But in the paint is Lash. Another offensive board. That one tipped. Nobody could score. And now all alone in front is Thomas. Just an easy lay. It's going to be still an 11-point game. But Centenary quenching that scoring drought for sure.
And may have been another travel in transition right there. Both of them have been uncalled in this one, but I think Centenary might have gotten away with a couple, needed to right there.
Lash tried the three. Gredicke gets the rebound. Now back to Lash. A little shot, but put back and slammed down by Gredicke. Jack Gredicke has brought down the house. And the Nebraska Wesleyan faithful here in San Antonio are cheering him on. A.J. Hall can't get it past Gredicke. And right now, it's all Gredicke.
Yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal for the Prairie Wolves in this one. Just a ton of gravity underneath the basket, especially on the defensive end, working towards about 5 blocks on the outing.
The Thomas with the board, but being contended with by Thatch. Number 2 going against number 22 right now. Gets it into Singleton. Singleton in the paint. Now back out to Hall. A.J. Hall pierces the arc. Now almost throws it over the head of Seth Thomas. Could have potentially been a dagger. Less than 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Thomas, 4 seconds left. He needs to take a shot. He does. Can't get it though. It's going to be a shot clock violation. Didn't touch the rim, say the officials. So another long offensive possession for Centenary going to dust. Lash inbounds it. Connor Brown working his way to the opposite side of the court. Now over to Glenn. On the logo right now. Now back up to Lash. Over to Gredicke. Gredicke to Glenn. Takes a three. A triple for Carter Glenn. Number 3 does his letter's sake. Or his number's sake, rather.
Honestly, Nebraska Wesleyan has just adjusted so well to this game. Collier on the other side trying to keep Centenary in it. He drops one through from straight away. But Wesleyan has been very content to keep this pretty defensive. They've played and limited the Gents to now 38 points. They're not trying to do too much. I think that's the biggest thing that's turned around in this second half. Very energetic out of the gates, and for that reason, turned the ball over a bit too much in the first 20 minutes. Great turnaround here. Content to just play very solid defense and let the looks come to them on the offensive side of the court.
And a foul on Seth Thomas just before the timeout. And right now, looking at the personal fouls for both sides, nobody really in foul trouble. Centenary has only had 5 fouls tagged to them. Nebraska Wesleyan only 8. So it's been a fairly clean game from both sides. Nobody in any foul trouble right now. Although for Centenary, when it comes to March Madness near the end of games, teams that are down will drag it out by sending it to the free throw line. So we'll see how long that lasts. But right now, in this half at least, only 2 personal fouls for Wesleyan and 3 for Centenary.
Talk about playing the foul game, though. You have to wonder how close do they have to get it to be in a position to play that game. Down 13, still a ways to go, especially as they're going to have to start out on the defensive end. Hit a nice little dent by knocking down a 3, Craig Collier, just before that timeout. But still need to start getting some stops and really can't afford to come away with empty possessions on the other end of the floor.
Glenn gets a pass from Lash, and he defers right back to Lash. Lash, cross-court pass, now back to Glenn. Pierces 2 gents, but kicks it back out to Lash. Trying to get a man on the inside. Does find Connor Brown, but can't finish. Braden Board with the rebound. Pull-up 3. Doesn't get it to go. Off the back of the iron. Contested rebound, ultimately in the hands of Peter Lash yet again. Now, Lash taking the pass from Glenn. Glenn with the ball in his hands yet again. Running quick and scoring quick are the Prairie Wolves. They get quick points thanks to Connor Brown. Tag the assist to Carter Glenn. Back out. Another immediate 3, just not going. That one, Jalen Bear. His shot attempt doesn't fall. Now Glenn crossing the timeline yet again. And the Gents just being way more quick with their 3 attempts. Gredicke, 3 from the corner, bang! Gredicke may have put the dagger in the heart of the Gents as the Prairie Wolves go up 56-38.
I might have to agree with you there, Reed. 18-point deficit in a game where they've only scored 38. It might be a little bit too much. Braden Board is going to have the opportunity to cut into it a little bit with the clock stopped, but Gredicke showing his versatility for these Prairie Wolves, stepping into the corner, knocking down, I believe, his second 3 of this affair. 2 for 3 from outside the arc, very nearly a second double-double for this Nebraska Wesleyan roster. And maybe, despite Peter Lash's absolutely wonderful performance, the most important member of this squad. I think the way that he deterred Centenary from going into the paint was a huge defining element of this game. I can't think of more than maybe 5 shots inside the 3-point line, inside the paint for this Centenary offense, outside of opportunities they had in transition.
The defense pierced. Gredicke throws it down. Alley-oop. Nebraska Wesleyan responds to the free throws by slamming it down. Gredicke yet again brings down the house.
Yeah, and I mean, at this rate, you just throw it up to the big fella, he's going to go make something happen. Not the greatest lob in the world. They left it a little short. So long as it's on his frame, he's going to get a job done.
Nearly losing the ball. Back out to Thomas. Contested 3. It doesn't go. Glenn with the rebound. Loses the ball. And they're saying it's off of Glenn. He is shocked and awed at that one. It's Gent's ball.
Yeah, perplexed certainly might be an understatement. Referee was standing right in front of him. He seems pretty convinced, but appeals are not going to come to fruition here as it's going to get turned back over to the Gents.
Mirage handing it up to Bear. Minute 30 left, potentially for the Gents this season. Thomas backs it out from the arc. Bear thought about a 3, but a little too contested for him. Euro step action, can't go. Another rebound for Lash. He has 21 rebounds today. That ball looked like it was off the foot of somebody, specifically Glenn, but no kickball violation called. 3 from the corner for A.J. Hall. Doesn't go, but whistle is blown.
And it looks like Jalen Bear and Brown, who go to the ground fighting for position on that box out. I think it'll ultimately be ruled a foul against Brown. It's going to stay here with Centenary.
And Luke, with about 1:08 left, down by 19. It's looking pretty grim for the Gents. Now, Bear thought about a three instead, works his way in the paint. Now kicked back out to Mirage. Mirage works his way within the arc. A.J. Hall works his way within the arc. Pull-up jumper is good for A.J. Hall. But I'm not sure that two-point plays are going to pull Centenary anywhere close to Nebraska Wesleyan.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Gents, they needed more of that right there. Shot making from the mid-range, and they just didn't get it today. 24% from the field, 25% from three-point territory now. They didn't get to the free throw line very much either. It was an absolutely stifling performance from this Nebraska Wesleyan defense.
Right now, Nebraska Wesleyan, despite the 20 turnovers, most of it coming from the first half, has really put on a clinic on how to win a low-scoring, chippy game. And Luke, I think you're right. The tall man, Gredicke, he has been such a big impact. 56 seconds on the clock. We'll see how much resistance the Gents put up. Inbound in for Glenn. Now Gredicke with the ball in his hands on the other side of the court. Handing it over to Glenn. Centenary doesn't look like they're going to be fouling. Now to Lash. Lash giving it to Gredicke. He kicks it back out. Torniton, who gives it to Glenn. Now the three attempt from Brown does not go. Forward by the Gents, who may be taking their last shot of the season. Mirage trying to drive it in the paint. Kicks it back out and intercepted by Torniton. There's no shot clock. Puts the ball at his hip. And Nebraska Wesleyan will continue dancing as they defeat the Centenary College Gents 58-41. Buzzer sounds, it is over. They will meet the winner of Trinity, Texas versus Texas Dallas. But Luke, really, I think that second half really showed the difference between these two teams.
And that last possession just moments ago for Centenary, kind of emblematic of the theme of this game. Raj was able to get some dribble penetration, and then right in his face in the middle of the court was Gredicke. And when he recognized that, he kind of just turned and dribbled back to the three-point line. Gredicke didn't lead the team in rebounding. That would have been Peter Lash, who had an absolutely incredible performance, a clinic in the rebounding category. But he really defined everything else. 4 blocks at the end of the day for Gredicke. He's a huge reason why it's the Prairie Wolves moving on to the round of 32.
The 19th ranked Prairie Wolves lead the Centenary faithful that came out to watch the Gents going home disappointed. That will be the end of the Centenary Gents season. Give a shout out to the seniors, Seth Thomas, Braden Board, Jalen Bear, Takeem Singleton, and A.J. Hall. Those Centenary teams would not be the same without those players, and they would not have gotten up to this point without them on the roster. Congratulations to them for a great career with Centenary. But for Nebraska Wesleyan fans, stay tuned because you play the winner of the next matchup. But the Prairie Wolves, like you said, Luke, they're still dancing. Thank you for tuning in on the Tiger Network. We'll be back in a little bit. It is a 7 o'clock tip time, I believe, for Trinity versus Texas Dallas. Although, do be sure to double check the bracket on NCAA.com. You can go find it. They probably have a more official time. Their time says 7:35, so whichever one it is, tune in either way. Be sure to check. But for the Tiger Network, I am Reed Rosales. Thank you to Luke Terry and everyone in the control room for working this first game, and we'll be back for Game 2 in San Antonio.